YOLO mofos, welcome to 420 TV. I'm your host with the most. Well, at least a little bit. I don't really have the most, but Anyway, it's MIAC time. I should be getting called by David Dubine shortly. I was a little bit late, so we're supposed to hook up here 20 after, which it is about. So let me hook that up. See what we got going on. I hope everyone can hear me okay. It looks like they can. Let me open up a chat room. There we go. What? I was a little unprepared tonight. Sorry about that. A lot of times. Somebody asked me how many times have I had to restart. The total number is 6. 6 times I've had to restart. Lucky number 6. Maybe I won't get banned this time, but I doubt it because you know what? I just can't help saying what I want to say. Yeah. Let me find this broadcast. And there it is. Hopefully I won't echo the shit out of everyone. It's muted. Awesome. Turn that off. Turn that off. And here we go. What's up, Susie Cat? You hear me fine. That is good. Let's see here. And I'm back here and I'm good. I am good and ready to go. There we go. So, how you guys been doing? Hope you've been doing pretty good in these trying times. You know what I'm going to do first off the bat is give you guys some reading material. If I can open it up here. Hey, Ransom, these days I only get notification when it's over. Sweet. You know, I'm subbed to so many channels and I have the little bell clicked and all that, and I don't get any notifications for most of the channels I like. I have to go literally to their channel and see if something's new, and then, you know, when you do that, you forget channels somehow, and you miss a lot of content. Really, though, if you're doing it right and you're living life, you're probably not watching that much YouTube anyway. Here we
go. Medicine, do this, do that. And suddenly, just all this minute that it's happening when we're coming into a new magnetic field where things are going to snap and break all over the place, irreparable. And then to add on top of that, I am on strangesounds.org. Illinois man finding a mysterious ancient tunnel beneath his home. And I'm reading this thing here, this article, and it's pure mud flood. This is purely a global liquefaction, hidden part of history event here. Because apparently he did a lot of research after he found this under his home. And the homes and maps of the area went back to 1860, but this was pre-1860. So word was from the quote-unquote historians that it was built in 1840, but they didn't know why. They kept saying it was possibly a root cellar, possibly an ice storage area, although they didn't really have ice machines in the 1830s and 40s, you know, but they have no explanation for it. And the tunnel is 9 feet tall, full brick, incredibly immaculate glazed brick. Like the brick making, I'm not really an expert on brick making, but the glaze on the bricks and the sheer precision of the engineering to put the bricks together. This is not just a sloppy tunnel from the 1830s or 1840s put together. These bricks are all uniform in size, and somebody knew what they were doing to put this together here. They don't know exactly where it ends at the end, and here's some more excuses that the town historians put together. It could have been a carriage, could have been for ice storage, could have been an underground railroad terminus, anyone's best guess. But wait, I thought they knew everything about the area and the Alton area and the historic society. It could be a root cellar too. But you see how history is getting changed here. Now, the most interesting thing here, before I sign off, is in this story, it actually talks about how the ground was higher than it was, and this area was the original street level, and somehow 9 feet of earth and mud suddenly was on top of the entire town, and they rebuilt on the entire town. So for me, that sounds like one of these events we're going into right now between now and 2024. A bold call. The next set of upsetting, unbelievable global eruptions and earthquakes will be coming up in June and July of this year as we cross another magnetic point of Jupiter, Saturn, as it's forming into the quadrant of that second magnetic field. We're going to cross another secondary magnetic, I guess, terminus line coming up here in July. So look for huge, massive, gigantic upticks and quakes and volcanoes here in summer. So Ransom, welcome. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Would it be? So, do you feel like you're
shaking in the islands, man? 50,000 foot eruption.
Yeah, what do you think about that? When we were on Thursday, when they were talking before it erupted, and we were talking about that, and you were saying, yeah, and you kind of laughed like it was a joke. Wait till you need a passport to leave the island or a vaccine, and that's exactly what they went with right away.
Yeah, it was kind of startling, was it not? I mean, I was saying what an abomination that would have been if they would put people in such duress. If you're going to be burned to death by a volcano with your family, or you get a vaccine, and I was just pointing it out how beyond words that would be, to put other humans in that position, other human beings with feelings and bodies of their. I thought my body was my choice. So how was that garbage that they fed everybody for how many years? Your body's your choice. My body, my choice. And now, no. Our body, you slave. We own you. It's our choice what we're going to put in your bodies. That's another whole bait and switch narrative thing there too. My body, my choice. No, it's not. Wear a mask. Get the vaccine. Blah blah blah.
It's only your body and your choice if you want to destroy it.
Yeah, well, how many times can they switch a narrative on you before people actually finally start to wake up? Because the global warming thing shattered. Now they're going with global cooling. Yeah. Monetary system switching. Oh, it didn't work with the modern monetary theory. I guess the money printing didn't really work into infinitum. Gee, we never learned from the last 3,000 years of history that printing stuff and debasing currency never. Oh, gee, well, it's going to work this time because we have computers, right? Like. Everything's being reset at this point on purpose. It's got to be a purposeful event. There's no way this is randomly just catalyzing by itself event after event. This is a purposeful happening right as we speak.
Yeah, I saw this. We've been talking about this. It's kind of like a ad nauseum thing because we talk about the same thing. Grow food. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And now that it's all happening, it's like, what do you do for the masses? Like I'm reading this article from the WHO right here, where they're pushing all the countries to ban the sale of live wild animals in food markets. So they're going to cite this current situation as the reason. But when you really think about it, what they're doing is they're going to the root of people being able to feed themselves. So, if you're buying packaged meat, and it's got all that formaldehyde and solution or whatever from the store, and most people don't even think about it. They just get them some hamburger, some chicken, whatever. But healthy people know that they need, the fresher the food, the more healthy it is. And this is what I was talking about a long time ago. They are going to legislate and governmentalize every aspect of your life to where, they're going to micromanage how many wheat stocks you have or corn stocks, how many animals you have, what kind of animals they are. I recently just saw an article about a domesticated goat in Desert Valley and how the National Forest Service and everybody's flipping out because they're saying it's going to kill all of the, the bighorn sheep. But it sounds like to me just another one of a long line of excuses why you're not allowed to have fresh meat.
They are going that direction. I'll have to read that World Health Organization article there. Because if they do start to limit, because it seems like a lot of these limitations are currently in more developed countries. But when you start stepping further afield away from the control mechanisms of endless cameras across everywhere and whatnot, I was wondering how they were going to start to control some of these lesser developed nations. Well, if they do pass a mandate across the whole world, no more fresh markets. Then what? What does that make a grandma who has fresh veggies that used to go to the corner down there to sell and now a felon?
Yeah. I just kind of crammed in and sped through that video you just sent me, which it's like a month old, but I hadn't seen it. And I put the link in the chat for you guys because we're not going to talk about it too in detail. But basically, they were showing the guy broke it down for those of you that like football in a pretty easy way there on the board about basically. I'm going to try to say it where it's not messed up. You have a
yeah, dude. I'll stay with you on that one because I believe it's an important message without getting taken off here.
Yeah, so let's say you got a bunch of little army men running around in your body. And, they got weapons to fight anything. I'll try to put it like that. So the government is trying to convince you to put a new army in your body, basically. But that army's kind of, lackadaisical, and it only goes after one enemy. And everything else is just going to get let through. It's kind of like our border. They'll reject certain people, but, everybody else can come right in no matter what the harm it may cause, and they're going with this same logic to protect your body against invaders. And here I'll put on here just so and I'll highlight it for everybody.
Yeah, because the body the way you have right now, the little army you have running around in your body, any kind of invader that comes in, it'll like you're bad, they'll jump on any kind of invader that comes in. Airborne, waterborne, whatever, your body will just jump on and be like, no. Then they'll go after anything. Well, with this new little specimen they want to insert into the array of armies in your body, it's only going to be after one thing only, but everything else will go through.
So that kind of, if you watch that video and you have my kind of mindset, I see the missing piece to what I've been saying probably since I was a kid. And I'll put in another analogy. If you run a chicken house, you got, I don't know how many thousands of chickens in there. And each night they go in there and they pull out the dead ones that, the other chickens pecked to death, or it might have had a disease. But sometimes they warn of, like, there might be a possibility of bird flu, say, at your chicken house. So instead of like testing the chickens to find out, if they have it, they'll just kill every single chicken. They cull everything. And I think that's a good analogy of what's going on worldwide with this program right now. Basically, they're setting it up where something else, not the thing that you're worried about now or people are worried about now, but something else can just come along and devastate because there's that little army we're talking about.
No protection.
Yeah, there's no protection.
Your little army, your body armor is good down.
So messed up that you can't just speak freely. It's so weird that we're developing a new language, basically.
I know. Well, that video for me was the final missing piece that I was looking for to understand what was going on. That's it. That was the final piece for me to get it. That filled in all the gaps for me. I finally understand what's going on totally now.
Talk about a great reset. Here,
man.
I'm going to put this
I watched the video. I had to watch it twice because I was like, no, that can't be real. No. Right. That's exactly what they're doing.
And
that's exactly what's being done.
Right? The guy that they're using, the guy that's bringing this to everybody's attention, it's not like he's on the conspiratorial side of things or the anti-anything. Actually, he's always been pro, getting your medicine in your arm. Actually, that's his whole line of industry there. And if he's saying that this is messed up, because he probably, I looked at his credentials, he was in charge of putting the adjuvants in things, which a lot of us know is part of a major problem for years. And even that guy with that's promoted bad things in the past is saying, hey, this is something different. This is a totally different thing here. and it will totally change you and the world. I mean, it's hard not to say it, so I'm just gonna put the link in the chat box there for you guys to click on that, and you guys watch it at your leisure there.
Yeah, because if I might add a little thought onto that, I'm wondering if he's going to stay alive much longer.
That's exactly what I said here. That guy's dead.
Yeah, he put his life on the line to bring you that information, and that's no joke. I mean, he was a career guy with 30 plus years in that industry, at the very top, leading Gavi and a few other organizations, which we all know about. But for him to come out fully and say what he said, I mean, that's a life-risking maneuver right there.
Yeah. The other guy's banned everywhere too. The host of the show that's talking about it.
Oh yeah, he's just Dell. He's not allowed to talk anywhere. He got wiped out in that whole movement of the early purge of Paul Joseph Watson and that whole Milo Yiannopoulos. Right after that era,
yeah,
he was second in line when they started taking down people like Dave Rubin and that crew off. Too many truth speakers out there. You can't have the truth that can debate with fact to the narrative people that just regurgitate and swear at you.
But that's okay. I've been telling everybody we're going over to a more robotic system anyway. So, the brain chip that everybody's talking about, the Neuralink, and I've showed it many times on here. So basically, they put it in there, and within a few seconds of the monkey getting treats through a tube, he learns how to play Pog, a video game, through his mind on the television. It doesn't sound like that big a deal. And I've been saying that if they've put it in a pig and they've put it in a rhesus monkey, the next logical step is human beings. And according to this and several other people's, the brain chip will be put in this year into humans. Neuralink, it's Johnny Mnemonic time, but this will keep you distracted while everything else is burning down around you. If you choose to
Sounds
implant.
fun. Maybe I can invent my own self hologram in there. Oh wait, that's called reality already. Wait a minute.
Yeah, it is.
We can get another construct of reality on top of reality.
That's funny. I have an article actually here about that's not it. About how they're going to switch over soon to the next gen of phones, which will be all hologram phones. So yeah, that's not future. That's right now. Let me see if I can find it here.
Yeah, because the Navy's coming out with saying that with these few patents that they have, that they're able to bend the construct of reality, and they're talking about spin dynamics and torsion physics and Nikola Tesla devices for anti-gravity weightlessness, and suddenly they're coming clean with a lot of things that have been invented since the 1940s and 1950s on anti-gravity, and suddenly it's making the news as it's just being unveiled as a new solution for a lot of the world's problems, from energy to transportation to supply chains, logistics. All right in time for this reset. It's pretty interesting on the timing. And the way they framed it of the U.S. Navy patents that can bend reality, or your version of reality.
Yeah, and it's funny because that there was a similar article to that, a year or more ago, and now they're pushing that. I have that article open. I'm trying to find it here. About that exact thing. So they've been leaking the idea of it, and now they're just saying straight up, no, we're about to start using it. Just in time for
right.
At the same time as they say they're going to disclose what they know about UFOs, which I doubt seriously you're going to get the right version of what's going on.
I bet we'll get the blue beam fake alien invasion hoax version of that out of anything versus free power for humanity. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Wow. I just want to.
Yeah, I know it's a strange thought. Hey, wow, free power for humanity or a fake alien invasion? You choose A or B for control. Which one would you go with? I say they're probably going to go with the fake alien invasion. Central banks never want to lose their power, grip of power. They stole all the gold. They stole all the money. We can only go digital because the aliens are here to steal all our money. So we got to go digital only. I can see it already.
You know,
Yeah.
it's funny too because remember I told you last time we were talking about the little probe that they put on Mars, the little helicopter, and I was saying, "What? Mark my words, they're gonna have a bunch of problems where we'll never see anything." So first, they've already had a software issue, and now they're saying that their $8 million probe is engulfed in Martian dust and is having electrical problems, and that they didn't see that coming. If you believe that.
Yeah, let me add a little something on here. Did you see the rainbow on Mars?
No, I missed that.
Yeah, if you go to strangesounds.org, they have an image here of a rainbow on Mars that the rover had captured. And wait, again, this whole narrative shift. Like when I was a kid, it was a dead planet, no magnetic field, zero atmosphere, no possibility of an atmosphere, no water up there, and now mysterious rainbow on Mars. It actually looks like a real rainbow. So NASA's Perseverance Mars rover snapped a photo showing a rainbow stretching across the Martian sky. All right. Where did that come from? From a dead planet with no atmosphere and zero water, no possibility of water whatsoever as a kid, and then now there's rainbows up there. Well, you see like the slow drip feed narrative shift over my lifetime on a planetary scale about a planet that's visible. Oh, and might I add here, Ransom, one thing about Jupiter looking through my telescope. Actually, I was using a scope off of one of my rifles, and we were looking at the Jupiter because it came out the other night right in a line. So it's Venus and then Jupiter, along the ecliptic, and our skies are incredibly clear. And it looked bluish, and I said, that looks kind of blue, doesn't it? And sure enough, when we zoomed in on it, super high magnification, it was blue. So obviously the auroras were kicking up there, and we could see the blue coming off of Jupiter. Now that's from the ground on the Earth. So when there's these kind of changes happening on Mars, which is a real close planet that you can zoom in on incredibly well with high-powered binoculars, when they're seeing rainbows up there, like something way weird's going on with the atmospheres of the planets. Incredibly strange. And I encourage everybody to look at Jupiter and see if you can see the auroras up there as well, because it appears blue. And I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, and then somebody else looked through that even has way better eyes for me, like we call her eagle eye, and it was blue for sure. The only way Jupiter could possibly have a blue aura or halo is because the auroras were firing off of both poles and making the blue color. That's the only possible explanation for that.
Here's an article too that they're trying to. I don't know how many movies you've seen in the past where like the day the Earth stood still and stuff like that, where the world's about to destroy itself, but you got a UFO or an alien presence that all of a sudden provides the answer to our world problems. If we could just unify into a one world government so that we could all be represented as a single planet, and then you have at the same time you got all of this stuff being leaked by the Navy and whoever, and they're saying by this June they're going to disclose everything, but at the other side of their mouth they're showing all of these UFOs, and it sounds like the same old stuff from like Project Blue Book. Like, so if things didn't fit into their narrative, it's automatically Russian technology. Like, that was what they wanted to go with no matter what. They didn't want to say UFO, they wanted to say Russia. And it looks like they're starting to do that again. The Pentagon says that what we're seeing in the sky could just be hypersonic drones from China or Russia. Now, we know they have hypersonic stuff, but do you think it's that's actually what it is? Or are they just kind of, telling you, don't worry about when you look up, we got it covered? It's just those Ruskies.
Well, Well, I personally feel that they're trying to mask the technological developments over the last 70 years that could have given this planet free power, where we never would have needed to go down this road of fossil fuel burning, because the technologies that were found after World War II, there's a lot of missing gaps in terms of where did the tech go, why was it never experimented with and brought to the forefront and continuously improved on. If they, gotten into certain levels in the 40s and early 50s, then why was everything just stopped suddenly? Well, it just got taken to a more classified, I guess, room in the back of the building there. So you can give all the explanations you want of, oh, that was a hypersonic drone or whatever, but what if it's an anti-gravity craft that only allows you free power and weightless shipping on the planet, so running a truck or a rail line with weightlessness across? What if that allowed you to escape the planetary atmosphere, and however heavy you wanted it to be for lead coating to get through the Van Allen radiation belt, it wouldn't matter because it's weightless antigravitics. And one of the problems with the moonshot they talked about in the 60s was that little fuselage was so tiny and thin that there's no possible way they could have gotten through without the brains being fried back forth and making an omelet look like an ice cold bowl of Jello, compared to what they would have been fried like going through that Van Allen radiation belt on their brains. And weightlessness, you could put 20-foot thick lead shielding around that and just scream out of our atmosphere at Mach 17 or something. It wouldn't really matter. And it gives validity to talking about stargates and things on other planets and hopping quick over there, because we're so brainwashed into this. There's only rocket-fired rocket ships.
Yeah.
Or I should say, liquid. Was it hydrogen? What is it? Liquid.
Yeah, liquid fuel.
Oxygen that they use for propellant and whatever other mixtures they have in there, and it only goes at a certain speed and it has to break gravity and has to get the slingshot around a planet, and you need all these technical people to figure out the mathematics. When in reality, you're just shooting straight out of the atmosphere with your anti-gravitics craft, breaking and going, incredible speeds and ending up in Mars in like 2 or 3 days versus the stories we're getting, or compared to stargates where you're zoomed over there in seconds, jumping through portals. Either one, 3 days, 5 days out on an anti-gravity craft, or a few seconds going through a portal. Either one, because this tech has been here for a long time, and a lot. Hitler was super into going around looking for his little bits of junk across the planet, trying to find all these things from ancient history, and the stories just go on and on and on about, especially in U.S. military bases in Iraq being on sacred spots, and then old I should say towns, villages, and cities, and the archaeological digs going on inside the U.S. military bases without having to worry about the assessments. They just went in and dug with dozers and shovels and just scraped stuff out of there looking for whatever they found. So this is what I do not think it is. I don't think it's a hypersonic drone. I think it's technology that's been invented, improved on, that's being hidden from us, removed from our world on purpose, so we don't have the benefits of free power, so we don't need to be stuck in this construct of never-ending money printing, fiat, never-ending wars, modern monetary theory, central banking, and all the elite powers and private armies that control that all the way down. That's what I think it's all about, and that's why it's still here, and we don't have free power. Because these constructs are thousands of years, tens of thousands of years old, that are still holding humans on this planet in the same duress. But that's a long-winded answer.
It is, but it makes sense, especially when you look at stuff like this. Here's an article from Yahoo, kind of relating to the recent power outages in Texas.
You on mute?
Huh? Mute? I am not. Anyway.
Ransom, I think I lost you there. That was, when you start talking about anti-gravitics and central banking.
Don't do that.
The line seems to break off. Isn't that unusual?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
So think about, until Ransom comes back here, think about these things for a second. If we had indeed had anti-gravity technology that during World War II was being improved on by the German forces, and the Allied forces come rocking in there after World War II and find these floating domes and these anti-gravity electromagnetic spheres that had chains on bell-type objects shaking around in the air. They wouldn't have improved upon that. And we're still sitting here 70, 80 years later, still burning a black goo from the ground to make our power. That's the most ridiculous story ever. And the thing about automobiles, too, since I've been a kid, they've always talked about EPA, you got to improve the mileage of the cars, da-da-da-da. Why are we still at 20 or 30 miles per gallon? When I was a kid, it was 20, 30 miles per gallon. Fast forward 30 years, it's still 20 or 30 miles per gallon. I'm so surprised that we don't have cars that get 150 miles per gallon. That's the way it should be, at least 150 miles per gallon, minimum. Why are we still at 30 miles per gallon? You're like, ooh, I got 32 miles per gallon. Wow, it's such a fuel-efficient vehicle. No, it's not. It's a drudging dinosaur with anchors behind it, just barely scraping across the pavement at 32 miles per gallon. It should be 320 miles per gallon. But then you lose the control over the citizenry. And the corporations don't make as much money, and they can't finance. Central banking doesn't work as efficiently. Private armies don't get paid as much. And then people might have more freedom on the planet. But you know what? That's don't talk about that. I shouldn't talk about that.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
All right. No,
You already back from Mars? That was a quick jaunt. See, you were showing me how quick you could hit the anti-gravity craft, Mach 720 over to Mars and back in that little break while right there. That was excellent. What'd you see up there?
well, they're showing this big, fast thing. I was showing them on there that was moving by the space station. That's obviously some kind of craft in the background, and I was showing them the video of that. But you were talking about how they keep making us think that we have some kind of limited power, and I was showing everybody this article here that Texas nearly went dark again because not because of weather directly, but because supposedly they misjudged the weather, so they're not making enough power to compensate what the weathers are. And right now, Texas is getting cold weather. Not unusually, like in the long period, but in the recent period, it's kind of unusual. But they knew this was coming, and it's at the same time as our current administration is trying to cut every avenue of power off. And you could just get used to this because it pretty much says a little cold weather came in and the power almost went off again. Almost 600,000 homes went dark again because they're not generating enough power on purpose.
How dare you generate enough power for a state? You're not allowed to. You didn't get the mandate to do that. Not everybody's allowed to have power.
Well, good.
Come on. What world are you living in?
I'm living in the world where crude oil is going up $30 a barrel right now.
Yeah, I talked to my cousin this morning who lives out on the West Coast, and he said that it's nearly $3.75
Wow.
per gallon. And I was like, what? It's $2.75 here, which is atrocious anyway. But $3.75, that's a game changer. And Texas got smashed with those hailstones earlier today as well. I mean, they had almost 100,000 homes damaged on the roofs from grapefruit-size hail. That's not a normal storm that rolls through and damages square miles after square miles after square miles. Hailstorms usually are limited to a certain area, not traveling across the state for hours, damaging that many homes with that kind of size hail. Because you got to realize the updraft to make that hail. So just a quick 101 how hail forms. It's an updraft. So generally what will happen is the cumulonimbus clouds will get so high up there that the water coming down will actually freeze that's dropping out of suspension. Well, somewhere along the way it hits an updraft, and then it's almost turning back to liquid, and then it gets pushed back up and it gets another whole coating of ice around it, kind of like a gobstopper. So when you look at hail and you cut it open, you can actually see each layer being built on top of each layer on top of each layer. That's a refreezing, and then an add to, and then a re-updraft back up to the cold, and then dropping back out, getting that condensation around it, getting sucked back up, refreezing, getting that next layer after the next layer after the next layer. Well, you got to ask yourself, how much updraft does it take to drop a grapefruit-sized ball of hail on a home, and not just one, but for hours going across like that. What kind of strange storm is that can produce that kind of hail for that extended duration of time? That it's not normal, those updrafts that can last that long to continue to produce that size hail indefinitely for hours like that. Was the most, I could expect pea-sized hail coming out at the periphery edges of it for a couple of minutes, but not hours of pounding grapefruit-sized hail. Something's very wrong in the atmosphere at the moment. Very wrong.
You sent me that, I don't know what it is. I guess it's supposed to be like a secret covenant or whatever it is.
Oh, yes. That was passed on to me after. Let me rewind my memory banks. Oh, Jeff Berwick, Dollar Vigilante. That was the one who got that, who was one of the original people to get it, but somebody in his mailing list sent it to me.
I don't know if you noticed this, but I'm sure you read that. Did you notice that it was worded very odd, like almost like if a human didn't write it? Like when you first sent it to me.
That's exactly the way it was written. It was as an off-planet species came down to invade this planet and wrote that as their, I guess, code of conduct for others that were coming down to oversee the farm called Earth. That's the way I read it. I don't know if you read something very similar, but that was definitely not our species writing that to control us. That was a different entity, interdimensional, extra-dimensional, whatever, off-planet, whatever. That was not us writing to control us. That was something else.
Well, one of the things that you first notice in there is it kind of links up to this, thing about the Navy claiming that they control inventions that can change the fabric of reality. Several times in that, it spoke of, illusion and misdirection, and to make sure that like no one could ever see what was going on. And we kind of talk about that a lot. But there was some really odd things about it. It didn't just seem like, some person decided to, well, I'll just mush all the conspiracy theories together. It really had a weird flow to it that it's not like the way that a human being talks or writes. It could have been an algorithm. I could see that, like an AI talking. But even if so, some of the points that are made in there, whether this is a real thing or not, the points are still valid. When I went through it, it's just like point by point. I could point to something in reality that I know of that indicates that line or statement is true.
Well, for me, it was an ancient document. It's not new. I felt that when I was reading it and listened to it, reading it's one thing, but then listening to it is quite another. Having another person then listen to it, and then you listen to the way that they describe it. Well, but for myself, that is an ancient document, absolutely ancient.
I didn't.
That's not a new document. Just like you say, squashed together with a few people.
Yeah.
Throwing some conspiracy theories together in the last 100 or 200 years. That's like a million-year-old document of control on this planet. At the minimum, 100 or 200,000 years. Maybe take it back 500,000, but that is something as like a code of conduct on this planet. And I'm your host, David Devine. Many Ice Age Conversations with Ransom Godwin, 420 TV Freedomist Films. We'll be back in a little bit to still spin some ideas. We're going to go through this document. See you then.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Be evasive, but that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth as a form of protection. Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, and their word guidance.
Oops. You're going to have to call me back. Oops. Anyway, let's see here. I'm going to see if he wants to open that document up, and then we'll share that with you when we come back from the break here. Is this the right one? That is not the right one.
An issue that
Sorry,
really...
I'm having technical difficulties. Please stand by. All right, here we are. I think that's me there. All right, let's check the chat room and see what's going on. We're going to share the document, I think, and see what you guys think about it. So what's going on? James Crouch, Susie, James Ortiz, Max Vision, what's going on? Top Knot. Who else is here? Sassafras. Hey, that stuff there is made of sassafras. I'm just joking. You guys should check out Top Knot's channel, man. He's got some cool videos. I was just looking at his goats. He's got cool goats, cool cows. It's like a petting zoo, and he gets to go outside and just like touch animals all day. I'm jealous. I can't even have chickens where I'm at. No fresh eggs for us. You will not have protein. Anyway, I wanted to share this article with you guys while we're waiting. Let's see here. Magic mushrooms show promise in treatment for depression, study says. I'm going to go ahead and give you my opinion without this article or anything in the article, nothing scientific. If you eat a good batch of mushrooms and you have a good time, you get, in my opinion, like realigned is the right word for it, in my opinion. So you kind of get realigned. You have some laughies. You have some, time with yourself, your inner self. Mushrooms do something in a way that other things don't do. And what I mean by that is like, you may do one kind of substance and you're weird to everyone else and everyone else is weird to you. But with mushrooms, you get to see yourself in a way that you don't normally get to see yourself and feel yourself in a way that you don't normally. So not only does it help you improve your eyesight, and there is a reason that they call it a mind expanding drug because it does expand your mind. But on top of that, it's been shown in scientific studies, but I'm going to say from my own personal experiences that it would help with depression. I'm not the kind of person that really has ever, I don't think, had depression. However, I've been in the dumps, and that's a good way to reset everything. It's like, I don't know how to put it. It's like rebooting your system. So the next day, you're going to look at everything just a little bit different. And according to this article, the problem I have is that the pharmaceutical industry is going to take over the science of magic mushrooms, which leads into a whole area of custom hallucinations or hallucinations that are being controlled from someone else. Meaning that they could mess with the compound, mess with the way your body absorbs it, and you're not getting the original intention or effect out of the plant, if that makes sense to you. Let me see if it makes sense to you. And somehow I got cut off with Dubai here, so I'm going to try to reconnect with him. Laughter is medicine. That's true. Pharma is messing up everything. Of course they do. And we're going to get into that with this, no telling where it came from. It's author unknown. Where it came from, we don't know. However, when you get into it, it's worded in a weird way, and we'll kind of show you that. Let's see. And is it already 2 minutes after? Yep, so let's see here. I will try to get on the bandwagon.
And welcome back to the second hour of Many Ice Age Conversations. I'm your host right here, David Dubine, along with Ransom Godwin from 420 TV, Freedomist Films, broadcasting live, streaming live right now on YouTube on the same YouTube channel. Do appreciate Freedom Slips for allowing us to have Studio A right here every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. Free thoughts, free ideas. I never get a lecture about anything, never have, never will, about the subjects we cover. Never. We can talk about what we want to, when we want to, and why not? Why are our thoughts, why should they be censored? They shouldn't. All talk, unless you're threatening somebody directly, should be valid and allowed. Discussion This is the only way we ever moved forward in our society and our civilization. So if you do think that having free speech available at your ear tips, weekly, minutely, as this is one of the #1 online venues here for free speech, consider a donation to keep this on air. The running costs, the production costs, the server costs, all of these things, as most of us still that do have free thoughts out there are moving through this minefield of termination and, well, servers being pulled and a lot of other things. Costs are running up to stay live on the air because so much coercion is going on with hosts and IP providers, etc. So to find one that will actually keep free speech venues on air is a blessing itself, but it also costs a bit more because they have less clients and, well, the risks aren't going to be twisted that much. So people are doing it out of the, maybe it's a repeat in history where, you know, we start to see that being on the right side of history, on the right side of good and the light is where you want to stay, and that does not have a cost to it. But if you do consider free speech something valuable in your life, freedomslips.com, right up there, there's the donation tab, many ways that you can still support this venue. Studio A, Studio B, both okay, both needed. But as it was going on the break here with Ransom, we started to talk about the covenant, and, you know, I got all wrapped up there and went out to go get a drink and whatnot. So what I want to find is this. I wanted to talk about the covenant here because I thought it was such the bizarre document as well. Now I have it up on my phone, but I wanted to bring it bigger onto my screen because, you know, the way that this thing is written is just kind of a bizarro in itself. Like, you know, the way you said, Ransom, it didn't seem like it was written by humans because, you know, when somebody writes something like this, the poisons will be hidden in everything that surrounds them and what they drink, eat, breathe, and wear.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not like an Illuminati person or some kind of global banking elite writing that. Is there really that separation? They're human as well. So the poison that would affect one human would affect them. And if they're talking about all these things here, everything that surrounds them, drink, eat, breathe, and wear. I don't care if you're a banking elite from the Bank for International Settlements or not. You breathe the same air. You eat this, well, not that maybe the same foods, but the things that do surround us. It sounds like a different species is writing this. I really, when I look at this, and we will teach them to eat poisons. The poisons are good with fun images and musical tones. Who writes that? It's almost as if you're an anthropologist looking at a different society and then writing it.
Yeah.
And when I see these things, I'll give you another one here. When their teeth decay, we will fill them with metals, and that will kill their mind and steal their future. Again, you know, it's almost as if you're looking at a cow and you're trying to talk about the inoculation, and we could boost its weight with some kind of anti-worm pills in the cows will boost their, you know. And it just goes on and on. But there is one point here where it says, our families will never mix with theirs. Our blood must be pure always, for it is the way. Okay, maybe that could be pure bloodlines on the planet and the royalties, but still, you know, just the way this thing reads the whole way. It's just fomenting animosity between them through our factions. You know, I just said, sheesh, man. It's a deep read. It's a deep read. I don't know, the 3 pages of just at the end of it, you shaking your head going, this is the perfect blueprint that we've grown up with our whole lives. This is it in words, in 3 pages of an entire agenda, every way, shape, and form, everything that you could possibly think of in the way your life has been shaped, not only statism, being born into fake nation states, separating us at birth from the humanity part of it, and then dividing us further that you're from this country or that country. You're not a human being on a planet. You're coming from a portion of the planet with a different governance system, as in a farming system, It's quite the eerie read after you get done with it.
Yeah. I have it up so everybody can see it. I thought, we might go by it point by point because there's some stuff.
Yeah, I would love to. That's really what I would like to do.
Okay.
I would like to go by point on this.
For
those of you listening, please settle back with whatever your beverage or mind-altering choice would be for the next hour, because this is going to shake the core of your reality of how this is worded.
It reminds me a lot of I forget which, is it FDR that said that there's a presence so pervasive, so vast that even people of politics and industry better speak under their breath when speaking of it. It reminds me, like, it almost sounded like he or whoever wrote that read this. So like on the very first line here, it says, "An illusion it will be." And I want you to remember this. If you've ever read cuneiform text, it has the same kind of flow.
Exactly does. I was going to say something like this is an ancient document. This is nothing new. This is written 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. That's what baffles me on this thing here. It's a 5,000-year-old document putting into English text and reading right now.
Yeah. So like the very first line kind of says what we've been talking about. An illusion it will be so large, so vast, it will escape their perception. And those who will see it will be thought of as insane. And that those 2 points right there kind of gifs up any kind of mistrust or research you've done that makes you not want to do something, like maybe medicine in your arms or genetically made foods or whatever. And it gets into every single thing you can think about point by point. So just on the first thing, we're going into this time where we're talking about disclosure. We're talking about blue beam. We're talking about hologram phones, all kinds of stuff now. And there it is right there. And you could just throw the entire mainstream media apparatus into this first line here. An illusion it will be so large, so vast, it will escape their perceptions. And anybody that sees it will be thought of as insane. And I would like to point out the other video that I shared in the audience and what they're talking about how only really 1 or 2 people that understand the technology are saying exactly what it is.
Yeah, because these next couple points here, we will create separate fronts to prevent them from seeing the connection between us. We will behave as if we are not connected to keep the illusion alive. Our goal will be to accomplish 1 drop at a time so as never to bring suspicion upon ourselves. This will also prevent them from seeing the changes as they occur. And that's exactly what's happened. This drip feed, slow boil in the pot of a frog that we've seen our entire lives, nothing ever changes.
Yeah. Incrementally.
The only thing that changes are the mechanisms of control that get tighter and tighter every year. This whole fighting of this and the movement of that, nothing's ever accomplished. It all gets snapped back to nothing. And the fake leaders are upon these movements as well.
We will always stand above the relative field of their experience, for we know the secrets of the absolute.
Yeah.
I've never seen something that not only speaks of physical, technologies, but also talks about your inner self in the way that this does either. There's a big point in here. And I'm not sure that on this line, a little further down, it says, we will use soft metals, aging accelerators, sedatives in the food and the water and also in the air. And I know a lot of people think of like gold when you're talking about soft metals, but I took this to mean water soluble or, the soft metals like lead, mercury, things like that you could mix into products like food, water, and in the air. And then,
and toothpaste.
Yeah, and toothpaste. And you know how, I'm sure Diamond and other people have done a lot of research into aerosol injections into the atmosphere, and a lot of real scientists have come to the conclusion that it can't be a geoengineering program because it's so minuscule compared to the actual size of the input from the sun and the size of the planet and all of that. But if we're talking about it in a different way, like in this right here, the soft metals, you know that it's a fact that they are putting additives of barium and strontium and aluminum and things like that into fuel. But they're also, these same things can be found in your food and in the water supply, like fluoride, for example, and lead. You find that in a lot of places. When I was living in Maryland, they even made us sign a I guess it's so you can't sue anybody, but it's an acknowledgement that there are so many toxins in the local water that you have to sign that you know that when you send your kid to school, that you're aware that there's stuff in the water and that there could be lead poison and all kinds of stuff. It was really bizarre when I read that, thinking these people are all drinking it, and taking a bath in it, and taking a shower in it, and they're washing their cars in it. We're completely, water is something we can't get around touching, being around. So if you really were going to put something really subtle, like it says above that, we will use our knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways so that they will never see what's happening. And it's that, just like you said, it's a long stretch of incrementalism. And I know I pointed this out to you before, but I've always thought that with the agendas that are historically proven to be around and people have wrote about, depopulation, other things, that you could see that it's very unlikely that an agenda that big could continue down through generations from father and son and never go astray. It would never, one son wouldn't say, you know what, that's messed up, I don't want to do that. And then, but it hasn't. So that tells me that whoever's controlling the agenda or the plan either has a lifespan way longer than ours, or it's a single-minded entity that never strays off the path of the intended goal.
Well, that would come to that next point where it says, we will work together always and will remain bound by blood and secrecy. We will keep their lifespan short and their minds weak while pretending to do the opposite. Yeah. So when you look at the poisoning of the food and water, that really didn't start this geoengineering in earnest until the 1970s and 80s. So what was the delay all the way until just 40 years ago before they started hitting the air train to dump a bunch of stuff into our lungs? So, you look at some of these things and you say, well, they didn't have airplanes to disperse that. So what were they doing prior to it? Yeah, there was a lot of strange things with water going through the last couple of 100 years, but you go to the 1700s, like what was going on at that point? Validation of the document here. But that point there, we're going to keep their lifespan short and their minds weak while pretending to do the opposite. Jabs in the arms, you know what I mean? Eat this, do that. Like I said, coming back from the States from living overseas, I feel like I have brain fog all the time. I'm eating brain fog food coming back to the States. I don't know if it's the constant geoengineering over East Tennessee and the farming community here, or it was the smart 5G thing I'm trying to get off my house where they slapped one on the side of the house. I don't want it on there. Or if it's just whatever it is. But man, I have lethargy where I didn't before living overseas. But it's because it was not incrementalism here. I came back and boom, it just hit, and I noticed it like so distinctly as if you walk outside on a very brisk cold morning and go, ooh, I need a jacket, it's quite cold. Yeah. It was the same thing, like, whoa, wow, man, that's crazy. Whoa, ooh, it's kind of slow today. Well, I could feel that, like, walking through some quicksand here.
Yeah. Let's see here, down here. Does this not describe the world we live in? Just like you said, they will be blanketed by our poisons everywhere they turn. The soft metals will cause them to lose their minds, and we will promise to find a cure from our many fronts, yet we will feed them more poison. So, like, it's right there saying, well, we'll give you poison, we'll make you sick, you'll come back to us, and we'll give you more poison. The poisons will be absorbed through their skin, their mouth. They will destroy their minds and reproductive systems. And I harp on my channel about the Western world, the United States specifically, Israel, Japan. It seems like everybody that you might say has a good portion of their population that would side with freedom because they've tasted freedom and they've tasted free market. Those are the main countries that are getting the most heavily dosed, I'm going to say, with all kinds of stuff. And they're also the same countries that their fertility and sterility are plummeting. And from the very first month of this new emergency that we've had since 2020, I've been pointing out article after article that says that the contagion implants itself in the male organs, and that's been really not pushed out to the forefront. And I said, mark my words, they'll start coming out with articles about sterility, and within the year, 6 months, they started coming out very like here there. And I wanted to point out another thing. All the way up until 2020, any mention of medications in your arm would have instantly been not aired on TV. There was maybe like 2 famous ones, one with the swine thing in the 70s and another one. But other than that, it never makes it to the national level. But now I can scan through articles that show side effects, deaths, etc., etc., at the same time as they're calling you crazy for pointing them out. And, the next line after that about the reproductive systems is, from all this, their children will be born dead, and we would conceal this information. Yeah, here it is. There's the one you pointed out right under that. The poisons will be hidden in everything that surrounds them, and what they drink, what they eat, they breathe, and what they wear. And if you've ever studied that, there are a lot of toxins coming over from China, and 90% of the stuff that the industrial Western world wears, their products are coming from a certain place. And over and over again, they get caught. Well, oops, we put this in there. Oops, we put that in the baby food. Oops, there's a little bit of lead in this plastic on your kids' toys. Oops, it's in the polyester mix on accident. There's a little carcinogen in there. This is so eerie that it describes everything so perfect. We must be the ingenious in dispensing the poisons
for they can see far.
Yeah, for they can see far. And they kind of give humans, or the lay people, whatever, credit that if they weren't being bombarded with poisons and illusions, they would see what was going on.
Yeah, and the last part of it talks about we kicked them the hell off this planet. And they would be reconciled within about a fifth of an eighth of a second, and that's what terrifies them. At the end of this document is us waking up and realizing what this other species is doing, and that by bonding together as a human species, they would be kicked off planet within, like I say, about a fifth of an eighth of a second. But that's why the aging accelerators and sedatives and food part is there.
And let's see here. Right here. After the musical tones, which, we kind of all get that, it says that they will use those that we look up to. We'll enlist them to push our poisons. Now, watch, I'm going to skip over to this other article over here. I believe it's here. Yeah. Listen, Mick Jagger sends up anti-vaxxers a new surprise new COVID song, Easy Sleazy. So if Mick Jagger, the rock star that drinks and does drugs and all of that, he really wants to stay healthy. So you should listen to him, And it goes on and on. I even showed that video where all of the Hollywood stars are out, promoting this seal of approval from the government that that when you go into this shop or business, we wear our mask and we're all vaccinated, and it's like they're pushing it like a USDA organic certified stamp, but it's on their building. It shows that they're part of the cult and they're promoting it.
Yeah, have you seen this push for also they call something vaccine selfies? Have you seen the push for that?
Yeah. Well, I thought that was odd already because, and I was actually going to...
Yeah, I did too. And they keep chastising people for not showing their vaccine selfie. Like, how dare you not even show it? You didn't. I was like, oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. You go on, you do your selfie. Having a selfie was bad enough. It was getting to the point of ad nauseum with the selfies and the stuff on Instagram anyway. But now the ad nauseum of just even really making me nauseous, even looking at all these people with their own V selfies going, oh my gosh. I'm really looking at this list of the rest of these points saying,
Yeah.
we'll use their fear as a weapon. We'll establish governments and establish opposites. We will own both sides. Their minds belong to us, and they will do what we say. If they refuse, we shall find ways to implement mind-altering technology in their life. Well, what do you think putting a thing over your face where you can't breathe and you're sucking down a bunch of CO2 all day and you don't get the right amount of oxygen and you're hypoxic? Well, maybe that counts a little bit. That'd be like a super easy, non-industrial, non-high-tech method. Just choke yourself to death almost every day. Awesome.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of points in a lot of these that it kind of sounds like the art of war, and the fact that they're talking about making their enemy dumb, sick, and mentally inept. Their ability to learn has been affected, and we'll create medicine that will make them sicker, cause their other diseases, for which we will create yet more medicine. We will render them docile and weak before our powers, or before us by our power. They will grow depressed, slow, and obese. And when they come for us for help, we will give them more poison. I mean,
don't forget the establishing a money system that will imprison them forever, keeping them and their children in debt.
Yeah.
And letting them and deceiving them into accepting laws that will steal the little freedom they will have. Taking over their lands and resources and wealth to exercise total control over them. Drop by drop, we will advance our goal. They must never know a man's color is an illusion. They must always think they are not equal. Gee, I wonder what point that is. I haven't seen that recently.
Yeah. The fear is a weapon. We all know that's happening. That's been happening. You could argue for, throughout history, but I could mark, I'm going to say 9/11/2001 as when the major fear psyop started happening. There's a terrorist under every rock. Then they started turning it domestically. And then when you're done with that, now we got to see, first we got to fear the communists. Now we got to fear the Islamic threat. Oh, well, no more. You can't fear that. That's racist. Okay, let's fear the white people then. And then pretend like communism disappeared at the same time. And it's just a big circle jerk of constantly replacing your fear with another fear. Once you got a handle on one concept and realize how to, kind of deal with it or fight it, they give you a new one. So you never can be prepared because you're so busy fearing the last thing that they gave you.
Well, I was told in a private conversation that this COVID scare is starting to wear off, or the shock and awe, the numbness of the fear of what you're talking about is starting to start to glaze off, and it doesn't have the effect as it used to, and a lot of people are starting to question this, that, or the other. So the next thing that they're going to move to is the climate. Well, that absolutely makes sense, especially with these volcanic eruptions about, there might not be enough food, the planet's going to cool, we got no control, we got these new systems, they're based on this new tech. I could see they're just going to create the next thing, because they had to put that global warming thing on the back burner for a little bit here, because that wasn't working so much. Again, that people lost remember the Al Gore thing came out, was that what was that thing with a hurricane on the front cover there? And it lost its illusion after a few years, and people started to question things, that the Arctic didn't go ice free, and Inconvenient Truth was not really all it was cracked up to be, and a lot of those things never panned out, and people started to ask questions like, hey, wait, it was supposed to be ice free in 2009, and then they moved it to 2013, and then it wasn't, it was 2015, and you can only move the benchmark back a few times before, like, wait a second, we got at least as much as we did before, and wait, snow was going to be a thing in the past, we got record snow. So a lot of people are going, wait a second, a lot of that stuff you said didn't really make sense. So the illusion and the scariness of it wore off. But when Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth came out, all that everybody gasped a deep breath for a few years, like, we really got to stop the CO2. But then the facts came out. It's kind of like this thing here too. Wait, maybe it's not as bad as it was. Only 99.99% of people survive that are 40 years and under.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the best ways to stay alive would be to get COVID if you're under 40, because 99.99% of the people live and survive it. Am I off base on that, or what?
No, I believe that the age range from 2 to, I believe, 65 is 99.997 or something like that.
That's a great statistic to be alive, is it not? I mean, your chance of beating death on that 0.003% is, well, high.
Now, I advise all of you to go look up the same ratio of adverse reactions or deaths from the other group of people. I'll just leave it to that. But, we started this show out with that other video about, the football analogy of what's going on. And both of us had the same idea. I was showing it to Anna, and the first thing I said is, that guy's dead. And it's right there. When a light shall shine among them, we shall extinguish it by ridicule, death, whichever suits best. And you could put that on anybody from Martin Luther King to, Jesus, Gandhi, or recently a long list of whistleblowers, scientists, and other people that have had unfortunate demises, whether they got in a car accident, they got found in the river, they OD'd, they killed themselves by shooting themselves perfectly in the forehead or in the heart. A bunch of things that don't make sense. Or, you have the other people, maybe like Bob Lazar, for example, that they completely denied that he worked for anyone. They said he was crazy, yet there's pictures, evidence, and since then he's been redeemed with some of the stuff he's said has come out to be totally legit. And I'll give you an example of that. In the 80s, he was talking about how at the Area 51 area, to be able to get in there, they had a certain kind of scanner for your hand. And you'd put your hand on it, and some little metal bars would come up to meet your hand, and it would take an x-ray of your bones because, it's just like a fingerprint. Only certain shapes are in each individual person, so only one person will match that. Well, I was watching a documentary about whenever they were disclosing stuff, and this was in the late 90s, and lo and behold, in the background, they were showing that hand scanner device that Bob Lazar described to a T, exactly. And then you can go also to element 115, I believe it is, right? So that was theoretical, but now there's been people that have made it in recent years. They've made it, so we know it's real. Hello?
They must never find out.
There we go.
They are equal.
Yeah.
They must never know, for we shall perish. So you got to wonder what kind of hidden tech is really out there. Because, you look in these, have you seen the New York City police walking around with that the blue dog that was just released a few days ago? These robotic devices that are coming out from like Boston Dynamics, you're like, wow, that's so new and high tech. No, that's 50 years old.
Yeah.
So the things that, we think are new and high tech, like, wow, that's just age-old hidden tech that's finally being rolled out off a dustbin somewhere. Dust the old rover off. We're back into the holographic one that has invisibility cloaking and whatnot. So give them the old model.
Yeah. Did you also find it weird that also like the cuneiform text that they refer to liquid so much, or drops or blood? It's constantly drop by drop. We'll do it one drop at a time. Our blood should never mix. We'll poison their blood. It's like, in my opinion, it had a similar author to some of these supposed rewrites of like Inky. I'll say for one, when Inky was kind of talking to the scribe and telling him how they did this and did that, they or they, or whoever the writers were, or who they were trying to portray, always used these certain phrases about liquid, and currency. And if you guys know, maritime law was kind of established as the first law system in my research. So from the moment Inky came off of the ocean and set foot on land, he brought maritime law and rules upon the land. And ever since then, everything that we do has been associated with water. I know a lot of people know I've had Jordan Maxwell on several times talking about this idea about the hidden language in our language, that refers to maritime law, like from everything from when you're born in water, you call that a birth. That's the same terminology used whenever a ship dock goes to the dock. Who delivers the baby is the doctor. So the birth happens at the the shore, and everything from like the court, you go to the bar is the side. Currency, money, it's always every saying that you've ever had about being in debt or being in the good. It's like I'm underwater, you invest in currency, everything. And then everything is a ship, friendship, partnership, the list goes on. So it's all referred to water. And it's really bizarre to me that this covenant goes out of its way to explain things in the same way with the, like all the way from the monetary system to the illusion. They're talking about drops and water and blood. And for you Christians, the water and the blood were if you know the original Bible, it was before there was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And they added that kind of, before that, it did say there are three that bear witness, and that's the Spirit, the blood, and the water, right? So that's like a little thing that's also written in the same way. It's just eerie to me how much they talk about it in this way.
Well, I do like there's a bit of hopefulness inside here, and if you read toward the end of the document, it gets quite hopeful. It says, "But if they ever find out that they are equal, we shall perish them. But then at the same time, if they ever find out that together they can vanquish us, they will take action."
Yeah.
And is it a great awakening happening with the magnetic fields of the sun declining, where there's a lot of people waking up, but yet there's a lot of brainwashing going on, and a lot of people kowtowing much more easily than I ever thought it would be? The United States almost being taken over without a single shot fired. But at the same time, a lot of people who I never thought would wake up are, saying things that my jaw's dropping to the floor, like, what? Do you think like that? Really? Okay. Never thought you for one of those people the way you talk for the last 40 or 50 years. But there seems to be a lot of awakening across the general populace. Maybe they're, just keeping it quiet because they don't realize others are thinking the same way. Maybe it's because a lot of retirees aren't having to worry about the politics of the job and the company any longer. They can speak freely and say what they want. But it seems there's a lot of awakening in the older generation, and perhaps that's why they're being targeted for removal at the moment. With the togetherness, we shall vanquish them, or they will vanquish us. They will take action. That's us, the humans on the planet.
Another thing I noticed when reading through this, that a lot of these things, like they must never ever find out what we've done, for if they do, we shall have no place to run. It's like I've heard these before. It's like specific people like Bush, the older Bush. Remember when he was talking about if they ever find out what we did, they would lynch us in the streets? It seems almost like people that come from secret societies like Skull and Bones and other things, and which is also referred to in this, they had access to a portion of this, because it seems like a lot of these sayings and stuff are a little bit twisted, but I've heard them before from certain people that I know are in secret societies. But even in here, it talks about even the people in the secret societies will think they're part of the club, but they're not.
Yeah, that one sentence here is a little, it kind of, this is written by an off-earth entity here, because for their work, they will be rewarded with earthly things and great titles, but will never become immortal and join us. Never will they receive the light and travel the stars. I mean, come on, that's not somebody sitting here that this is
Yeah.
like Anunnaki coming in from the outer solar system, counting planets inward from Pluto, inward, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, then Earth. That's where this document's coming from.
Yeah, and I wasn't even thinking so much about that, but when I first read it, I just thought, wow, this is just worded so vaguely familiar, but also unhuman. And that was one of my first things. Now, it could be just a very creative writer, but the way that it's written, it just seems like something that it maybe was copied from something else. But yeah, right in there, it talks about all of that in the words that they use. The recruits will be called initiates and will be indoctrinated to believe false rites. And that just sounds like every secret society from the Masons all the way up. The old learning schools, I'm sure they had a version of this the last go round before the last reset. They called them the mystery schools or whatever. But we're kind of reaching that point again, and I've made this point on many occasions that we're at that point where we have known technology, like we could be running our cars off water. There's no reason to be attached to a grid anymore. It's pretty self-obvious with technology that we could aid in the growing of food and cultivate our planet into a paradise if we chose to do that. But point by point in here is exactly what's going on. We're so distracted with fake wars, real wars. Because when I say fake war, a lot of people think like I'm saying it never happened, and I'm not. I'm saying that the powers that be that put it together did it on purpose, and the actual aggression was never real. They created it, and then they put two factions at each other's throat to get some kind of agenda pushed forward. Like World War I was the League of Nations. They didn't get it, so they tried it again. Some of the stated goals by the Nazis in the early one was to make a homeland for Jews in Israel, and they did that. A lot of people don't know that, but one of the very first acts of the Labor Party was to move a lot of influential, rich people into Israel, and they got that accomplished. And they also got what they didn't get in World War I, which was a League of Nations. They just renamed it the United Nations. And since then, we've had a lot of countries kind of fighting, not wanting to get into that. But I would think you would agree that now that you see in every country, whether they're supposedly our enemy or not, they are wearing face diapers. They are going to get their medicine. So in that sense, a world governance has already been established, and people that are clinging on to the idea that it hasn't happened yet, I think are a little naive and behind the times, not unlike the technology realization that we're in.
When our goal is accomplished, a new era of domination will begin. Well, it sounds like we're at that crux because this reset is happening on purpose. So we've reached a new era. 9/11 was definitely something into a dividing line of a new era has begun. Because I asked my parents, what was the beyond the 9/11 in this year 2020, going back through history, what was the defining era or moment, year that definitely you knew that a new era had begun in your lives? And they were saying the free and love hippie movement drug thing that was going on in the 60s. Or they had said right around 68, boom, it happened, that everybody realized that the old ways, the old system, the conservatism, the just everything had shattered across the society by 68. And that was the summer of love, and that whole Woodstock and the summer of love thing. That was it. That was the defining point for that year, that there was a shift that had definitely moved society in a completely different direction, and they knew the old world was gone. So, we get this about every 20 some years. So if you think of 68, 78, 80, and 90, about every 30 years,
Somebody just said in the audience, they were, I guess, referring to my maritime law statement and said liquid assets. And it made me think of, you remember the first Star Trek movie, the motion picture, where one of our satellites, Voyager, goes through like a wormhole or black hole or whatever, and it ends up meeting technological beings that send it back to find its creator or whatever. But when it gets here, it calls us carbon units, right? Carbon units. The machine calls everyone carbon units, and then when you think about that, where else do you hear carbon units in today's society? You hear it in the belief that they're going to make a universal carbon credit system, where all the carbon units will have to pay for their presence.
Do you understand?
Yeah, it's so funny. It's not funny. I'm just saying. This
I
kind
do
of
not understand.
yeah.
No.
And then this one right here. Their minds will be bound by beliefs, the beliefs we have established from time immemorial. Does that sound familiar? You know.
That sure sounds like gold mining camps in South Africa from Adam's calendar further back with Michael Tellinger's work is exactly where that came from 400,000 years ago. Yes, it does sound familiar.
Yeah, it's like every civilization on Earth going back to the Stone Age, and even those civilizations that were segregated from the rest of the world and still were in the Stone Age, there's one thing that links them all. They all found gold important, spiritual even. And not only that, if you think about what they could have did with gold in the, in the Pleistocene or whatever, it wasn't much. They didn't have technology, right? Most of the purposes for gold in today's world are all technological. So like for a guy, I mean, I get liking pretty rocks and maybe, that was cool to them. But I think they knew from the beginning that it had some kind of importance. And even after maybe the importance, the people that were pushing the importance were gone, that idea stayed within every civilization that gold is super important.
Well, if you leave a few leaders down here who continue that it's important and it is monetary value that holds through everything, and there's a base layer that they go through all these ups and downs of tulip bulbs and whatever else it is, but they, as the rulers of a planet, keep that gold system because the next time around they just reharvest the gold again.
What do you think?
It's sort of a repository into a flow of metals storage in certain areas, because you look around the world, like where are the vast repositories of gold? They might say the LBMA or something like this, or COMEX, but there's always repositories of it, and nobody ever sees it. Could it be there? Maybe it's not there. Nobody really knows. I mean, they try to do audits, but somebody like you or I will never be around that much gold to feel the vibration of that much gold. I mean, you go to some museums and you go to the King Tut display and whatnot. Is that really solid gold, or are there replica pieces that are just gold plated? We don't know. But to be in a room full of that much gold would probably have a real vibrational feel to it. But why is it always in repositories? There's not that much gold really around out for the average public person to touch, to feel, to have. It's quite heavy, and you can put it between your fingers and, rub a few pieces together. But beyond that, a few ounces here or there. I mean, when's the last time you were around, 10 tons of gold, like in the center of it, laying on top of it, surrounded by it?
Do you remember when they opened up Fort Knox and it was a big deal with all the reporters and all that stuff back in the day? And a lot of people pointed out that the math didn't work out right. So they open up this little vault. It's a little bitty vault. And you can only walk in at about a foot. And gold is just stacked to the ceiling, allegedly. And like you're saying, it looked more like a prop that they painted gold or had gold plated or whatever. But actually, I do know where some of the major portions of gold are today. That would be at the Vatican or in the hands of the royals, because it's a state secret how much they have. And last I heard, there was like 90 tons that they've admitted to having, the royal family, and the actual amount is a state secret. So we're not even allowed to ever know how much the royal family has in gold. We're not allowed to know how much supposedly gold we have at Fort Knox, if you even believe it's still there. It almost makes you think maybe we've made partial payment already. Rent's due.
It's always due. Imagine sitting on a gold throne. You talk about the royal family. how many things in the daily life are made of gold? Okay, you have gold goblets. So again, you talk about that monatomical gold, whether you're drinking wine, water, whatever, but then sitting on it, surrounded by it. Because silver has quite the energetic field too, but I do know more people that have a lot of silver.
Yeah.
And when you get around, 1,000, 2,000 ounces of silver and it's spread out in a room and you walk in there, you can feel the energy. I mean, there's no doubt. Without a doubt, you're walking onto an electric battery surface almost. You can get into the room with thousands of ounces of silver. You're like, damn, what's going on in this place?
Yeah.
So imagine if it was 1,000 ounces of gold, thousands, plural. It'd have a completely different resonance field in there than silver, but still, it would have electrical connectivity and actually, what was the pyramid covered in gold? Because I know a lot of places in Thailand and Myanmar, and I'll say one thing going into Yangon there. If you go down at downtown Yangon, and there's the most spectacular, unbelievable, I mean, you can see it from the entire city, this glowing gold covered monastery. It is covered in gold. And you can see it, you can feel it when you get up there. When you around that much gold resonating on, the stupas are connectors anyway, and they are conductors. So when you get into that resonance field of the largest gold-covered stupa on the entire planet, surrounded by other smaller stupas that are also, it's almost like walking across a circuit board of solid gold and granite and marble with the intent of connecting to the creator all within that element. It's something quite special, and everybody who ever visited, whether you are dogmatic or not, or whether you're an atheist, they get their beliefs changed going into that place. It is one of the most highly resonant change places on the planet. And you know what's happening in Yangon right now? Nobody's allowed there, completely off limits. And, I had to wonder if that had anything to do with it, because that Yangon was opening up and so many people were coming there having such the experience of, I don't know, there was something there that would change every single person that had stepped foot onto that thing. And maybe there's a lot of coincidences going on in Myanmar at the moment, because that's how my whole Adapt 2030 channel started. I used to buy coffee in Myanmar. Yeah. And going to that place, I used to take the time every single time we flew to Yangon to stop there. It was such the amazing place to be surrounded by that much gold on the stupas, and especially on that main stupa there, Rod. Just you vibrated, you could feel it. You could actually, it resonated through your being. I can't describe it. I sound like a raving lunatic talking about it, but you got to go and feel it. And it's so bad, it's so sad that it's off limits now. And I'm wondering if that's a thing, because over in Thailand, that place is pretty much off limits too. And there was a lot of resonant field in the gold topped and gold covered Buddhas there, and the gold covered stupas there as well.
I wanted to get your opinion on this last little part here, because it basically says that this is from the Anunnaki. I mean, this little quote here, we are the ones from heaven to earth came. That's like the Sitchin translation, kind of. Other people have agreed that's basically what it says. But this last part, the covenant must never ever be known to exist. If it must never ever be written or spoken of. For if it is, the consciousness will release fury of the prime creator. So they're talking about the actual God, or who they believe in, the actual God, it'll put fury upon them for what they've done here. And then they'll be thrown into time and infinity itself. Now, a lot of people know that the Bible is kind of rewritten cuneiform text stories, a lot of it. And there's some really weird connections there from what you were just saying. If you read about the new heaven and the new earth, the new heaven comes down like if it's a city and it's made out of gold, right? But then there's also where they talk about throwing the serpent, the beast, and the false prophet into the lake of fire for eternity. And I know a lot of people have a belief in hell and stuff, but if you actually read Revelations, it never actually says that human beings will be, put in there. But it does say that some people or some things some entities will be thrown in there back into the darkness from which they came, which is really bizarre because, if you know the cuneiform text, they talk about their planet being a rogue planet that got spun off of some other solar system who knows how long ago. And then they must have been technological enough, or they evolved here around this sun, just in an extended period of time before us. But either way, the similarities are so close to the cuneiform text. What do you think about this whole thing about even them fearing an all creator, or a prime creator, as they put it on here?
Well, absolutely. I mean, doesn't matter how all powerful or omnipotent you are, even if you're a fifth dimensional being, you would still fear the creator. It doesn't matter if you're the size of a planet, or if you are a planet, you're still part of the creation of something that created you. I mean, there's always at the higher echelons of the creation point itself. But the way that last sentence reads, it is spooky a little bit, where it says, we will be cast back to the depths from whence we came. That's the kicker there. They came from the depths of darkness to try to rule on this planet. Once we as the humans understand our resonance field and the power is connectivity of the human race, they go back to the darkness, and they're terrified that we as a human species will come together. Doesn't matter what continent, doesn't matter what country, how much money you make, what your spiritual beliefs are, doesn't matter. They're terrified of all of us coming together and kicking that central banking to the curb, which very much occurred at the end of 2019, which is right at the very cusp. I was so hopeful at that point because the gig was up. People really understood the problem in almost every single country was the central banking. And, the end of 2019 with the breaking of the repo market, and it was about to collapse anyway. And then you had 22 plus countries all asking for change. And it was strange because they were all asking for the exact same change. There wasn't 22 countries asking for 22 different types of change. It was 22 nations with millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people in the street every day asking for the central banks to be removed out of their countries, for the political structure to be revamped, and for the printing of fiat monies to be done away with. This is what they were asking for, and the sounds grew louder every single day. And then it was going to be the 23rd nation, and then the 25th, and then the 30th. And the entire planet, at the trajectory that was rising, it wouldn't have taken less than 6 months, and every single nation on this planet would have been asking for change from central banking. And the way money is used as a weapon against the people to enslave and put you into a debt prison, the politicians leading all of that, and the central banks on top of that with their private armies. They were asking to do away with all of that and demanding, not asking, demanding that it be restructured. So having 22 nations asking and demanding restructuring, mainly impoverished nations. What if it would have been 50 and then 100? I mean, there's no way. That's very close to where we came on this document. 2019. And you saw the response after 2019 when the citizenry of this planet awoke and said, your time's up, we need change, we demand the change. Suddenly there's this thing here that demands everybody stand 6 feet apart and can't communicate clearly. You can't even talk to anybody without muffling. And here we sit.
I had the strangest thought with that, because I always think in so many different ways when I hear stuff. So I was thinking, back in the oh, we're already done. We'll get back to that next week. Never mind.
Well, that was a quick outro. Yeah, thanks for joining us tonight, Ransom, Godwin, 420 TV, Freedomist Films, and David Dubine, Adapt 2030. Both of us on YouTube. You can find our work across Patreon as well. Every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. Listener supported. Please remember donation and keep this venue on air. Freedomslips.com. Donate button at the top. We'll see you next week. Keep your minds open and wait thoughts for solutions to this, and not your own.
Sorry about the when they play the music, it gets real horrible sounding over the phone. Anyway, sorry about that. Where is my button? There it is. Anyway, thanks for everybody watching. This has been 420 TV and MIAC on 420 TV. Don't forget to check out the MIAC channel. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of episodes uploaded here in a week or so. So there'll be a lot on the Mini Ice Age Conversations channel. But as far as 420 TV, we're going to be off air for about 5 days because I'm going to go check out some ruins and some petroglyphs in Utah with Diamond. So that ought to be cool. And we're also going to be visiting and filming the seed exchange, which ought to be really cool. So I ought to have a couple of things to show you. One about the seed exchange, probably on this channel, and our 4K petroglyph ruins experience will be on America in 4K. So thanks for watching. You've been listening to 177.6 on your Freedom of Speech dial while it lasts. Anyway, I'd like to thank all the people that hooked it up this month. You'll never know how much it does help. I appreciate every single one of you. I don't have the list here. You know who you are. I try to say thank you to everybody. If I hadn't yet, don't worry, I'll get around to it. It's just that I have so many things that go through my nugget. I have a hard time staying on track all day, and it's not attention deficit syndrome. It's just there's just so many ideas, so much work to do, and such a limited lifespan to do it in. So I hope what you're doing out there is worthwhile. Try not to spend your time in fake realities or with, fruitless efforts. There's so many of them given to you out there to distract you. But peace out and have a good one.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Lights, camera, killer, killer. Murder them. This is a killer, killer. This is a killer, killer. Murder them. Yeah, we gon' murder them. Killer, killer. This is a killer, killer. We gon' murder them. Yeah, we gon' murder them. Killer, 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 killer,
Nobody can do me like me.
This is a killer, killer. 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 Murder them. Yeah, we gon' murder them. Killer, killer. This is a killer, killer. We gon' murder them. Yeah, we gon' murder them. Killer, 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 killer,
Nobody can do me like me.
This is a killer, killer. Murder them. Yeah, we gon' murder them. Killer, killer. This is a killer, killer. Murder them. This is a killer, killer. 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 Murder them. This is a killer, killer. Murder them. Yeah, we gon' murder them.
Thank you for telling me I'm muted and no sound. So I wasted a bunch of breath, but we'll start again. Anyway, no sound. Yes, I think I got it. Anyway, I forgot to press the button. So I'm going to blow through the news. I put the link in the chat box right there. It says urgentactnow.com or whatever. I think it's a good video for you to watch. I can't play it here. I'll get banned immediately for what's said in there. But the video speaks for itself. It's really well put together. Exactly. Really easy to understand. for people that aren't really in the medical, jargon or whatever. So the video breaks it down in a very easy way for you to understand. I highly recommend that you watch the video, and I'm going to go ahead and put that link again, which might get me in trouble by itself, but who cares? That's what I'm here for. Anyway, so like I said, I highly recommend you watch this video. Let me get to it. I kind of got disorganized here. But anyway, I was going to get to the news anyway. I just didn't feel well, so I didn't do it. So we'll just kind of blow through some of my thoughts here. I already brought this up. The WHO, don't worry, even if I get banned, I'll just be back. I'm actually going to try to open up a website where it doesn't matter which my channel is. You could always go there for shows. I just haven't got there yet. There's just so many things going through my mind. So much stuff I'm trying to get done, and I'm only one person, and what a short lifespan. WHO urges halt of sale of live wild mammals in food markets. In my opinion, this is just an attack on people's way to feed themselves, to put it mildly. Elon Musk controversial Neuralink chip could be implanted in humans this year. That's right. I told you. I'm not saying, well, you know what? I'm not going to say I told you so, but I did mention it, because saying I told you so, it just sounds, conceited, but I did tell you. Anyway, this year, wait till they push it, like they're doing this other thing. And right here, you can see Mick Jagger, because Mick Jagger, Jackoff, whatever his name is, and his, totally holistic and healthy lifestyle that he's lived, wants you to believe that since he did it and he's cool, you should do it too. That's up to you to decide that. If you haven't noticed, they're monsters getting out of control. Not unlike ISIS, when we created that, got out of control. This is getting out of control. Even people from CNN can't cover their own propaganda that they've helped create. If you go watch this, they start hitting this guy in the head. Let's see here. I believe this is it. Anyway, they're yelling and they're yelling and they're yelling, and then all of a sudden, or maybe that's not the video. Let me see. No, I think it is. But anyway, all of a sudden, they start pelting the CNN guy in the head with frozen drinks and other stuff, and hitting him, and simply because he's a white dude. I don't think it was because they were CNN, because CNN helps this cause totally. I believe that they just picked out a guy and they just hit him in the head, and later they had to run off. The whole entire CNN crew had to leave. They were getting hit in the head with bottles. They were being threatened. And I've seen a bunch of other of this kind of thing. Antifa and BLM are now doing marches where they attack people filming them because they don't want you to see it, which makes absolutely no sense. If you're trying to get your message out and you have a good message and you want that message out, you would want media coverage, and you would want it in the way that makes people identify with you or empathize with you, and that's not what's happening. These people are out on the streets for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to scare you and to make you realize that they are going to be the new authorities. And yeah, more of this. Mysterious UFO encounters probed by Pentagon, and they're trying to blame it on hypersonic China or Russia. I don't even put that past that. But what's funny is it was just a few short years ago that they said that we didn't even have this kind of technology. Massive 14-foot fireball captured streaking through the night sky. And in my opinion, you're about to start. And they said this one was the size of a car. So if it had actually hit the ground, it would have been like a small nuclear explosion going off. The kinetic energy, if a car-sized rock hit somewhere, boom. Talk about boom. It would have totally jacked some stuff up. But here in the near future, you're going to see a lot of stuff just coming out of space. You're going to see lots of space junk burning up in the atmosphere because things are falling out of the sky literally because of the shrinking magnetic sphere on the Earth. And that stuff's just up there exposed. And not to mention it's getting old and it's breaking down from freezing and heating and freezing and heating just like anything else does. there are so many thousands of objects up in the sky that will be falling down, and you'll just see them as little sparkles, a little meteor shower. Don't worry about what they're made out of, what's raining down on you. Connecting to the last show I did where I showed you that it was like, I don't know, what is it, 60 tons of extraterrestrial dust comes down on us every year. I think it was a little more than that. And I thought this was funny because I live in New Mexico. So the socialist governor of New Mexico, Michelle Lujan, they just paid this guy $62,000 for something that she says she didn't do and never happened. He's getting payments of $12,500 a month for something they say didn't happen because they say it would have cost too much to fight it and legal fees and stuff. But if you reach down here, it totally sounds like something that her personality would do. She had a male employee, and that employee said something she didn't like. So what she allegedly did is pour a bottle of water in his crotch and then squeeze his junk and laugh at him in front of what the guy says was a bunch of other staffers, other people in the campaign, and they all saw this. So it's kind of hard for me to believe that they're paying this person out if nothing happened. Just my opinion. The amount of hysteria out there about white supremacy has reached an all-time high, and to the point where people are committing crimes because they can't tell what people are racially in their imaginary race land of this and that and black and white, and everybody has to be segregated. Even certain people can't seem to figure out who's who. A Lake Forest man faces hate crime charges after he allegedly kidnapped an Asian woman, believing she was white, with the intent to, sexually assault her. So this Asian guy was going to punish white people by kidnapping and raping a white woman. The only problem, it turns out that she was also Asian and he couldn't tell. And there's a reason for that. Because not everybody fits into their little bubble narrative of what people should or shouldn't look like, for the simple fact that we're all the same species. We're a hybrid species. We barely have any variance. I'm sure an extraterrestrial that looked at what we so-called have groups of race, I'm sure if you lined us up, they wouldn't even be able to tell us apart other than maybe, skin tone, which seems like an alien concept, doesn't it? To segregate people based on skin tone rather than actual genetics, history, culture, or any of those other things that we've classically, segregated people. We're at the point now we no longer need to do that. It's pretty obvious genetically we are one species that has several different archaic DNA contributions. And that's why people look a little bit different where you go around the world. We're not all the same thing exactly, but we are all the same thing as a species. 97% of us, net percentage of all of our bloods, whether you're sub-Saharan African or Asian or European or whatever, is Cro-Magnon modern human being. But look at the stupidity of this. Now, in my opinion, it's kind of just an excuse that he said that he was, trying to retaliate against white people. It sounds more like to me that he was actually a pervert and he was trying to use the new social justice revolution to cover his crimes, like a lot of other people are getting away with at this time. Just cover the crimes up, blame it on racism. Chauvin's defense team, George Floyd concealed meth and fentanyl pills from officers in his mouth. It's really not debated. It's been testified on. If you watch this, it's a full-blown circus, and it reminds me of O.J. Simpson trial, where there's a verdict that's going to come out that's already pushed, that's a narrative, and no matter what kind of legal proceedings or witnesses or proof beyond a reasonable doubt they show in this trial, they have an outcome that they want. That's from the federal level all the way down, from the executive branch is putting pressure on these local people to convict. So you might have your own opinion on whatever. And I pointed this out, that the rolling blackouts you're about to enjoy are not caused by natural, happenstance. These people are playing games with the grid. They're not producing enough power when they know they should, but yet they're still charging people. They're always going to get their money, but they're going to try to shut you down. And what happens when there's no electricity? Well, production stops. People don't have time to do things. They can't do things. That's why free energy is not free. Because if you had free energy, you'd sit around in your private property inventing things, coming up with new ideas, and making human life better. Most likely. You would have time to do that, and they don't want that. But don't worry about it. Just drink a coffee and go take a nap. You'll power through the day. No, I thought this was interesting because this is kind of what I do sometimes. I drink a couple coffees and they're hardcore espressos, and then I go take a nap for whatever reason. It does seem to energize you, though, when you get back up. So I'd have to agree with that article. Medical expert testifies that George Floyd had a heart arrhythmia provoked by fentanyl meth overdose and car exhaust. But they want you to believe that the knee on the neck did it, even though there's so many contributing factors. The guy's heart basically was ready to stop at any moment. He probably, most likely, would have died within the week from his lifestyle. Just saying. But they don't want you to think about that. Did I mention that Godwin was going to be taking over president of ABC? I think I mentioned that on the last one. Now, I did some time to look into this lady. And she was at all the great events over the past couple years. So I'm going to go ahead and say that most likely this woman right here is a CIA operative that's going to be placed at the head of ABC News, a Disney corporation. A Disney corporation. So keep that in mind. Anyway, she's a hardcore leftist. Propagandist. So you can expect that. Video of, I don't think this is the right thing. I hate when these articles change on me. Let's see here. Yeah, Chicago braces for unrest after the video of a 13-year-old Adam Toledo's death is released. Police claim footage shows him dropping a gun seconds before raising his hands and decorated CPD officer fires. Now, I'm not a fan of the police, and I think they kill and murder a lot of people for no reason. However, I think that this kind of shit is suicide. If you're running around and you're up to no good and you're hiding guns and you won't, because I know, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I know what to do in an interaction with the police. You shut the fuck up. Number one, you shut the fuck up. You have a Fifth Amendment. You use it. Anything you say can and will be used against you, not for you, against you. So number one, you should shut the fuck up. Number two, whenever you're giving commands, not like a bootlicker, I'm talking about reality. You may be fucking killed if you don't put yourself tits down on the pavement and don't fucking move a muscle. And even then, you still might get murdered, unfortunately. But I kind of call these murder suicides whenever people do this. Now, unfortunately, he was 13 years old and probably didn't have much sense. The question remains in your head. Why was he out? Where's his parents? How come there's no structure? Where did he get a gun? Why is he carrying a handgun? Etc., etc., etc. But we're not going to hear about that. We're just going to have riots. We're going to burn down civilization. And you remember it wasn't, I'm going to say 5 years ago, that they were calling people conspiracy theorists, talking about particle weapons, DEW weapons, etc. And last year, I read you an article that came from the Air Force Times, in which they were admitting that out here at Holloman Air Force Base, they were going to start mounting particle weapons, X-ray guns, laser beams, etc., mounted on vehicles, spacecraft, and aircraft. And the reason that they told everybody is because they were already doing it. Here's more admission to that, basically, even though whenever I noticed that all of the good articles are in these tabloid type news agencies. And the reason for that is because they don't want you to look. And if you do look, then, oh, well, you got that at the Sun or the Star. You're a conspiracy theorist. You saw that in a movie. That's stupid. And in reality, it's far worse than even what they're saying. But I thought you guys would enjoy this, so I had to make sure that I wanted to make sure you guys saw this. If I could find the right video. I think it's this one right here. Is this a video? No, that's not. That's just a still pic. Okay. You guys got to watch the video. I think this is it. Yep, this is it. Okay, let me mute it so we don't get an echo. Whoa! Yeah, ain't nothing like starting war with a little bit of twerking. Awkward moment, if I could talk, awkward moment, a group of scantily clad dressers with barrettes twerk and gyrate in front of a stunned military top brass at launch of a new $2 billion Navy ship in Sydney. That's great. I thought that was cool. Maybe they should twerk for the COVID too, you know? I think that would work out if they did that. Supposedly, a glacier in Alaska is moving 100 times faster than it should be, and they want you to believe that everything was solid and it never moves. Ice is a river of water, and it does flow, as you can see by the landscape of North America. There used to be giant glaciers carving across the landscape, moving giant boulders, carving ridges, and straight up eating into granite. That shows you the amount of tonnage and weight that was behind the glaciers. But they've been melting for a long time. And until a substantial amount of water gets introduced into the atmosphere, we'll never see giant glaciers like that again. We're just not going to. So the whole idea that you're supposed to judge the atmosphere by this is kind of silly, because we know that we went through a small warming trend bubble. And number two, these have been melting for a very long time, and gravity tells you that eventually it's all going to come down. I mean, it's going to flow. It is flowing. It is water. It is maritime, just so you know. But it's not you. It's not your fault. It was already happening before you even started paying attention. Good news for those of you guys that want to sit home, not work, and you like the universal basic income idea. However, I'm sure you thought it was going to be bi-monthly or monthly. No. We're just going to give you little chump change checks while we take your wealth and spread it around the world. Redistribution of wealth. A systematic transformation of the American system, as Obama put it. So we're well into that. And every time you get a stimulus check, they know you absolutely need it. They know that you're on the verge of fucking collapse. I can tell you from personal experience, I don't believe in socialism. However, I did spend my stimulus check, the one I got. I don't know where the rest of them are at, whatever. I've never really been into filing for taxes or getting welfare or none of that stuff. I try to earn my living any way I can. I don't think it's really a good idea to become dependent on any kind of system, and that includes welfare, or if you get used to stimulus checks and you're already rubbing your hands together, thinking about the next trinket you're going to buy, don't. If you do get this stimulus check, put it into your future. Buy some silver with it. Buy some crypto with it. Or if you're not into the money markets, buy you a bunch of tools with it, a bunch of seeds with it. Save it up, buy some land. Do something that's going to actually help you, because the stimulus check is not designed to help you. It's designed to give you a little bit of money when you feel desperate, so you run out and give back the $1 billion to the billionaires, or whatever amount of money it is. The billionaires are getting it. Even if you go give it to Home Depot, they're still getting it. But at least at Home Depot and Lowe's and whatever, no, I'm sure people do get welfare and stimulus. I'm not really sure on that because I don't get welfare. I believe people with welfare, though, can claim the stimulus check and stimulus aid as well. I believe if you have a Social Security number, they're handing out checks. And no one questions where the rest of it goes, because you're getting chump change. You're getting a little off the top. It's like tipping you, but not really. Not a 20% tip, like a 1% tip. Yeah, no checks there. You might as well get used to being a hunter and gatherer. Because, in my opinion, things are going to go downhill at an exponential rate. And I'm not talking about the grand solar minimum. I'm talking about the obvious decline in civilization we're going in right now that coincides with the grand solar minimum. And it goes from everything from this, from people not admitting that there's something wrong with what's going on, and continuing to listen to people that tell them things. instead of regular things like this right here highlighted that makes more sense. Eating good, taking vitamins, exercising. It's the way we've survived until now. Working outside. I thought this right here, you guys should check it out. So we were talking about a lot of that. And you see this, I'm not saying it's extraterrestrial. However, this is obviously a powered object. And I know it's hard to see in this video, but this blurry spot right here is the Dragon that's attaching to the International Space Station. So that's kind of in the dark. So whatever this is so bright. And you can see there, it goes behind the thing. That is a craft. Now, whether it's Chinese, Russian, American, extraterrestrial, I have no idea. However, they're telling us nothing's flying around up there. So I call bullshit on that. There's obviously stuff flying around. And, you know, every once in a while, that might be what you see when you see these things. It might not be a meteorite. It may just be something falling from the sky exploding. But like I was saying earlier, if that was really a car-sized rock and it had really hit the ground, there would be some really trippy headlines right now. But don't worry about it. If you're lonely and you're worried about population reduction, you can just always stay home because, you know, especially for you ladies out there, you can get a custom guy. And this guy will never get tired. He'll never not have enough testosterone. He'll never, you know, not be able to finish the job. You can just plug that fucker in and he'll even, you know, tell you sweet nothings in your ear. The men have their own version of it. And what's surprising is I was reading that the majority of people that buy these are already in relationships with real people. They weren't joking when they used to call dildos Bob, your battery-operated boyfriend. That's for real. Now, when you get lonely in the future, when the population is reduced, don't worry, you'll have one of these guys or gals in your house. You can call it Alexa or Google or whatever you want to call it, because they're already there. At least the mentality and the functionality of it is already there. But wait till it walks around. Wait till it spies on every damn thing you do. But people are, you know, occupied by the flesh. So if this thing can pound out a good O, who cares if it tells the government what you think about and what you talk about in your home, right? And I always say that, fucking a toaster, but it's more than that. Now, this article, I wanted to point out that no matter where you live in the United States, you are not untouchable for what's going on the border. At any time, something could happen to you. Now, this is a story out of Alamance County, North Carolina. A popular teacher there that everybody loved. I'm going to show you the guy down here. No, that was his relative. This guy, popular teacher. Everybody loves him. He's a great guy. He teaches your children. But he had a secret life of trying to gank people. In other words, steal their shit at gunpoint. They were so ready to do this that they armed up with Kevlar and everything. What they made a mistake is they underestimated the Sinaloa cartel. And they went and beat and tortured somebody from the cartel, according to this article, and they killed him. But guess what happened? People were watching, and a bunch more of the cartel showed up and filled these guys full of holes. Now, his relative right here, you could tell he's upstanding by the haircut and the tattoo and the look on his face. He was probably just trying to get, you know, a little bit of money for, you know, college education. He's going to be a doctor, you know. But anyway, so these two guys got murdered. But it just goes to show you, way up in the United States, you're not untouchable from the cartel. The cartel was running a stash house, which means they were making lots and lots of money and selling lots and lots of drugs right there in North Carolina. And this guy got wind of it. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch the video. Here, let me mute it again.
Some shocking revelations tonight about a Union County teacher. A sheriff revealed this afternoon that the man's death happened during a clash with a Mexican drug cartel.
Barney Harris was a Spanish teacher and basketball coach at Union Academy, but the Alamance County Sheriff saying Harris had another side. Investigators believe that he had been tracking the movements of cartel members in Alamance County and tried to rob their stash house of drugs and cash. Harris was shot and killed in a shootout.
Stunning details to learn for the school community that admired Barney Harris as a person, a teacher, and coach.
Because he was such a good person. From what I saw, he was a good teacher.
Channel 9 has team coverage for you tonight. Our Susanna Black has been talking with students and parents there who are just learning this news.
And we start with Mark Beckert, though. He's been following the details of this case, and he's taking us deeper into this investigation and all these new details tonight. Mark?
Yes, Scott, the sheriff's office in Alamance County had been working on those details for about 6 days before they released all of them today, and that's because, quite literally, lives were at stake. This is a life and death situation for many because they say it's a drug war, and that teacher from Union County, Barney Harris, found himself right in the middle of it. The sheriff told us that Harris and his brother-in-law drove up to this trailer park off I-85 last week, where they believed the Mexican drug cartel was stashing their drugs and cash. They allegedly tied up and killed an 18-year-old member of that cartel. But when other cartel members showed up and started shooting, Harris did not make it out alive.
But Mr. Harris, he had a bulletproof vest on, but it did not work with the type of ammunition that was used. He had gloves on, and you know, they went there to do what was done, except they didn't think it was going to backfire on them.
Deputies found dozens of bullet shells, both outside and inside that mobile home. They've since arrested Harris's brother-in-law and charged him with murder and armed robbery. But Sheriff Terry Johnson says he's worried that the gun battle that played out here in the darkness last week could lead to an all-out drug war, that the cartel could be coming for revenge, and that this time it could hit close to home.
I'll tell you right now, as sheriff, I'm still worried about some retaliation because the Mexican cartels, they don't forget. They're going to pay somebody back somewhere.
And there's good reason to believe that.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that guy might have done fucked up. I hope he doesn't have any relatives still alive, because I'm gonna go out and reach out on a limb and tell you to do a little research about the Sinaloa cartel in the U.S. government and their cooperation with the banks. Wachovia Bank, Bank of America, there's several of them. The majority of their money is cartel money made from drugs. And, you know, also, if this teacher was going to go steal a bunch of drugs and money, who do you think he was going to sell it to? Who do you think the drugs were going to be sold to? Well, it's likely he might have sold them through an outlet right there where he worked. I mean, there's an endless supply of new customers if you can catch them young. And, you know, you might think I sound a little fucked up because I said, hey, look at that guy. And yeah, he was obviously up to good stuff. But the truth is, you can't look at someone like this, because I'm sure lots of people look at me all the time and think, hey, look, he's got tattoos. Look, there's this and that. And they probably make an opinion about me. I understand that. However, I'm telling you, that's good. That means you're paying attention, because, you know, at one time in my life, that may have been true. I've never been, you know, a person that found victims. However, you know, it was an indication that I might have been involved in some things that were kind of heavy. And the same thing goes for anybody. When you start seeing people that are acting and behaving weird, a lot of traffic coming in and out, those are the people you don't want any contact with. There's some shit going on and you don't want in it. I'm just telling you, you don't want in it. And this guy thought he was going to, you know, come in and torture and murder a couple people, and he thought there were going to be no repercussions from it. Or both of them did. Let's bet right now that other guy, this guy down here, he don't live too long. He's going to go to jail. And when he gets there, he's going to find out whatever protection he thought he had, he doesn't have. So, rest in peace. CNN crew attacked by this. I brought this up a minute ago, but I wanted you guys to actually watch it. The monster they have created is out of control.
No, Bobo, no, you don't got no trouble. No. We don't. It's all peace, baby. It's all peace. It's all peace.
Holy shit.
What you mean? A bottle of water knocked you out? This nigga paying for the water. This nigga paying for the water. Do we have a minute? He's a man for the water. I want to make sure everything is okay. Crack this little bitch ass. My turn. Fuck out of here. What that nigga just got? He did, man. I think he said something. I want to follow suit. Put your hand out of your mouth. That's a white man.
Now, I kind of skipped through that, but you can see they were throwing all kinds of shit at those guys. A lot of people were saying, fuck CNN, bitches. So after a while, they knew it was CNN. But at first, they just started attacking the dude. And I thought it was really weird that the guy looked like he was going to pretend like he was being tough. And somebody in the audience said, you got knocked out by a bottle of water? Well, a bottle of water actually weighs a little bit of weight. And when you launch it and hit someone in the head, the water can't expand. So it's real close to hitting them with a brick. As far as the weight goes and the kinetic force. It's true that it's not as hard as a brick, but what was funny is how he got up. He looked like he was intoxicated on drugs, trying to act like a tough guy when he got back up. What are you going to do? And besides that, I'm not saying good that anybody's attacked like this, but you notice how the girl was like, it's all peace, it's peaceful, bam! He got hit in the head. Because it ain't peaceful. Like the organizer that lives in an all-white neighborhood of BLM said, I pointed that out earlier, she's a trained Marxist, so she's already taken all this money that these people are out there fighting for, and they ain't never going to see none of it. Do you think they're really going to see justice, no peace? No. What they're going to do is allow them to destroy civilization so they can replace it with their twisted idea of what they want, which is obviously communism. I mean, we're not even hiding it anymore. It's a joke. But don't worry, this leftist here that covered great stuff like the El Paso, Texas shooting, and, you know, Hurricane Dorian and all of these other things where they interjected race into it, she's going to be heading ABC News right there. So how about that? And I wanted you guys to look at this. I know a lot of you guys don't follow this. For one reason or another, you don't like Gravy Neck or whatever, but you can't argue with some of the articles that are coming out because you can go find them other places. I like looking here because I know that they're on part of the same trip that I am as far as watchdogging government, but I do feel like someone has a government finger up someone's ass at this place because it seems like every time they get movement to where they start being viewed as trustworthy, they do some weird shit. I don't know what's going on with them, but they ought to cut it out. Firing David Knight, bizarre. The fact that, you know, Aaron, what's his name? Aaron left. That was also something that bothered me because those two individuals seem to be very genuine. And I do want to point out that they're still acting like this unarmed woman was a terrorist who served her country, who was upset, who was exercising her right to assemble and give grievance to her government, and was shot, unarmed, while she was standing by a SWAT team who didn't think she was a threat. I just want you to think about that. So either it's fake or it was a murder. However, we're going to throw riots in the streets for people that are you know, armed. They're armed and they've committed violence, they have warrants out, and if you're anybody that's ever went through the system, you would know that if you have a warrant out or the situation looks in a certain way, you're going to get what's called a felony stop. And a felony stop is no bullshit. That's you out on your tits on the ground with guns pointed at you, and if you're moving, you're going to fucking get shot. These people are, I'm going to go ahead and say they're overly scared for their life. Some of them enjoy what they do for a living and they're out on a hunt like a predator. But I'm not going to act like I don't notice coincidences. at the same time on some of these. So, some people question whether or not events are real. Whenever we have technology that changes the fabric of reality, anything is on the floor of being real or not real. So anyway, I did want to point out George Floyd's girlfriend was Daunte Wright's high school teacher. That's right. The supposed crackhead that was with George Floyd in the car and is out there in the videos, if you've been watching the trial, and is testified, just so happens to be Daunte Wright's high school teacher. And like I've told you many times, the cop and the Asian cop and George Floyd all work in a nightclub together as bouncers. And that nightclub just happened to burn down in the protests after George Floyd died. So how about that? Where was I going? Oh, yeah. I don't know why I couldn't find this earlier when it was relevant, but they want to get you over to the new idea of this. But guess what? They don't really have technology that'll beam a hologram. So you're going to have to get a chip. You're going to have to get a chip in your head so it seems like there's a hologram there. It's going to be more like a HUD display in your head. I don't buy that they're going to give you a little hologram device. What they're going to do is wire you up where you see a hologram, where you can't see what's real anymore. This article right here, I don't believe. It says U.S. housing market is nearly 4 million homes short of buyer demand. I can drive through town and probably look at hundreds in my small city, hundreds and hundreds of for sale signs on houses. So there's no shortage of homes. What there is a shortage of banks that are willing to let you have those homes for real prices, for cheaper prices. They want a lot of money. So some people aren't going to buy homes. And then the richest of the rich, that's who they're talking about. Those people can't find a nice enough mansion for them while they want you to go live in a fucking cardboard box that they call a mini home. Because the mini homes aren't going to be nice like you see, like they build on farms and ranches and they're like, cool, it's a little house. No. What they're talking about is basically not much more than a prison cell. It's a box, it's connected to other boxes, and everybody lives in a big shithole. That's what they want for you. And you're going to need to be vaccinated to live there. I was watching this the other day. Geraldo got called out by Don Bongino, which you got to remember, he was Secret Service and a cop and is most likely deep state as much as Geraldo is. But anyway, if you don't believe that and you buy into the fake reality on TV, Bongino was arguing with Geraldo about Geraldo injecting race into everything, and Geraldo starts acting like he's a tough guy. Oh, you're a son of a bitch. You know, you're a punk. You're a punk. And in reality, you know that Geraldo, he works out at home on his he does his Pilates and whatever. Don Bongino is a trained killer. And what I mean by that is he's worked for the police. I think he has prior military service, and he worked for the Secret Service. This guy's a trained killer. So if we were doing a celebrity death fight, I'm sorry, Geraldo, you'd get your mustache ripped off by that guy. Anyway, that was just my thing. Russian military vehicles with invasion stripes descend on Ukraine border. They are going to force us into the reality of a third world war with there needing to be a plea from the whole world of unifications. And maybe, and just maybe, that's when those from heaven to earth will come down and save everybody. You remember the whole claim that Donald Trump and everybody, they got intel was saying that Russians were putting bounties on American troops so that they could say that people were allying with the Russians and that we need to go to war with Russia. Well, like everybody thought from the beginning, that all turns out to be bullshit. There were no Russians putting bounties on American troops. Actually, as far back as you could go to the fall of the Soviet Union, it's been American and UN forces and people like George Soros and other billionaires that have done all of the aggressive movements towards Russia. Why is that? My opinion is that there's enough Russian people in positions of power that the world banks and the world system are having a hard time toppling and converting and taking over Russia. So them, like America, we're kind of like the two last countries standing, and I'm going to go ahead and say America has fallen. Maybe not for good, maybe not forever, But at this time, I believe that the communist powers that be are in control of our country. It seems obvious by the shutdown of our economy and everything else. But don't worry, you're going to get to live on Mars. But look, and I know I'm always saying I told you so, but look, I told you so. They're not going to fly that thing around and give you pictures of stuff. They're going to say, oh, well, the dust storm broke it. Oh, well, electric broke. The programming's wrong. There's a glitch. Whatever it is, they're never really going to show you a real aspect of Mars so that you could do any kind of self-investigation with the evidence provided. But I do think you're going to get a bunch of nice, pretty computer renderings of things they believe it looks like. It almost feels like to me like they're just flying around in the desert taking pictures here sometimes anyway. You look good today. Want snacks? Artificial intelligence learns to flirt thanks to Colorado scientist Janelle Shane. Now, this article is really kind of not that big a deal, but if you mix this article with those Bob battery-operated boyfriends and girlfriends, it kind of makes more sense, don't it? Mushrooms. Did I tell you should probably take the mushrooms and have an experience? That's just my opinion. Did I mention watch this? I think I did. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in the chat one more time in case you missed it or looking for it. So it'll be there a couple of times and I want you guys to watch this. So here you go. Paste it and forget it. And then also if someone wants to look at the Secret Covenant, which, you know, I'm not going to say aliens wrote it. What I did say though is it did have a weird vibe, like a similar writing style to cuneiform Sumerian tablets or their predecessors. The stories, it's written in the same kind of flow. So there's that. freedomschool.com, The Secret Covenant. And even if it's just some creative writing, someone did a really, really good job, because how could you argue that this does not seem to be happening and hasn't seemed to be happening for, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of years. And you always got to keep in mind this. The powers that be, the lower people on the rung, are admitting to having reversed engineered technology from someone. They're also admitting that they can do things that were always told to be fiction all the way up until recently. And I would say that even if their inventions don't change the fabric of reality, they change the fabric of people's reality through their nonstop propaganda and interference in our senses and our all our sights and sounds, and maybe even extra sensory perceptions that we may have. And then you get into all that other stuff: food, air, water, clothing, products, everywhere. Anyway, that's all I got for 420 TV News. I'll see you later. I'm going to take a trip. God bless. And hopefully I'll come back with some really good footage to share with you guys, and check in on the diamond, and maybe I can hunt down Rex too and see what the hell he's doing, since I'll be in the area. Peace out.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Choking on the ashes of a